Hello student, in this video we will try to understand the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Sometimes in our life there come many crucial moments when we make our important decisions. Later on in our life we re-evaluate those decisions by looking back and thinking that how the life would have been if we had chosen other available options that time. Throughout the life, we come across many situations when we have to make our decisions. As a young child, we make our decision whether to do homework or play at a particular point in time. As a teenager, sometimes we might have made a decision whether to choose science or the humanities stream. As an adult, we choose whether to do business or to take up a job. So this poem is based on this situations only. So firstly we are going to learn something about the poet. Robert Frost is a well-known American poet. His work was initially published in England before it was published in America. He is known for depicting the situation that a common person faces every day. He was honored with Pulitzer Prize 4 times and he was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for his poetic work. This picture below depicts the situation where a person is standing at a fork. The road is diverged into two roads. Now the person or the traveler has to make his decision that which road he should choose to make his further journey. The introduction, the poem The Road Not Taken is based on common day-to-day life experience where we find ourselves in a state of confusion when we have more than one option but we can choose only one option. There we need to make the fullest use of our wisdom to choose the right option. In this poem, the road symbolizes the journey of our life. The future of our life depends on the decisions taken in the present time. When we have lived most part of our life, sometimes we look back and become thoughtful about those decisions we took in the past. We also imagine that our life would have been completely different if we had chosen other options. So here we go with the poem. The first stanza, two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, where it bent in the undergrowth. The two road diverge in a yellow wood. The poet says that while traveling through the wood, he came to a place where the road forked. Diverge means forked or become two. One road is leading into two roads. So in a yellow wood, yellow can be associated with autumn season when the leaves of the tree started decomposing, they become yellow and the tree started shedding them, or it may be associated with the morning time when the sunshine falls in the wood and it become creamy yellow color. So the poet says that he came to the point where two roads diverged, where the road has forked in a yellow wood. And again he says that, sorry, I could not travel both. So here, maybe the poet is depicting incapability of a human being, that though we want to avail many things, but it is not always in our hand. So here he is expressing his regret that maybe he wanted to travel both the road, but sorry, I could not travel both. He is not capable to travel both the roads. The human being wanted to do many things in their lives, but it is not always possible to do everything or to achieve everything that a human wants. In the third line, and be one traveler long I stood. So in this line, he is emphasizing that be one traveler. He wants to say that he is an experienced traveler, and being an experienced traveler, he stood there for a long time. So why did he stand there a long time? Because he has to make his decision at which road he has to travel. And that's why he stood there for a long time. And what did he do? And look down one as far as I could. Look down one. What is this one? Means one of the roads. So he started contemplating. He started evaluating that which road he will choose to go, and he started looking down one road as far as I could, means as far as he could see, because it bent in the undergrowth. To where it bent in the undergrowth means he looked that road as far as to that point where it bent in the undergrowth. Undergrowth means the small plants or the bushes that grow under the tall tree. So he couldn't see beyond that point where the road bent in the undergrowth. So here is the summary of the first stanza. The poet is traveling through a wood, and one point in time he found himself to a place where the road diverged or forked into two roads. And here he is confused as to which road he should travel. He regrets that he could not travel both the roads. He knows he has to choose one of the two roads, hence, as an experienced traveler, he stood there for a long time to contemplate and choose the right path to walk on. He looked down one of the roads as far as he could, where it bent in the plants and the bushes. Next stanza. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing deer had warned them really about the sin. So he says that then took the other means the other road. One road he has already looked on, one road he has already evaluated, but now he is looking for the other road because he has to make choice one of these two roads, and other means the other road. Just as fear means the other road seems to be as good as the first road. In the first line of the stanza, he says he started looking down the other road and he found that it was as good as the first one. But in the second line, he says, and having perhaps the better claim. But this road seems to be the better option for him. Better claim means better option. And why this seems to be a better option? Because it was grassy and wanted wear. It was grassy. Grassy means full of grass. It was grassy and wanted wear. Wanted wear means it needed to be trampled down. The grass needed to be worn out. And that's why he says this road seems to be better option for him to choose. Now, sometime here we will just see that generally when we come in this situation where we are at a fork and one road is well traveled by people and one road is less traveled by the traveler. Grassy means it is less traveled because the grass grow on the road when it is not frequently traveled by the people. So the second road, if we say it's a grassy, that means it is less traveled. But generally, our tendency is that we move on that path which is more frequently traveled by the people. But here, the poet says that being a grassy is the better option for him. Being less traveled is the better option for him to walk on that road. So here, maybe he wanted to depict that sometime in our life we have to take a decision that is different from others. Sometimes one has to make his own ways rather than following others. One has to make such a decision that the people follow him or her. So maybe that is why he says this road seems to be better option for him to walk because he doesn't want to follow other. He want to go on that path which is less traveled. Though as far that the passing there. And the fourth line here the poet says, though as for that the passing there means after traveling on that road, after traveling some distance on that road, had warned them really about the same. Warned means he found that the road was also as worn as the first road. Worn means the grass was trampled there. The grass was worn there. So initially when he was making decision, he found that the second road was grassy, but and that was his basis of choosing that road. But when he started moving on that road, when he started traveling that road, passing there, when he started traveling that road, he found that road was equally the same, means it was equally worn as the first one, means there was no difference in both the road. So what does this means? Mean to say that the poet emphasizes that sometimes we try to make our best decision, but we may be fooled by what we see and what we perceive. So here paraphrase of this. Then the poet starts assessing the second road that seems to be as good as the first one, but in the second line he says that this road proves to be better option. A reason, it was full of grass and it needed to be trampled by travelers, but the poet was wrong to assess the road because after traveling on the second road for some distance, he found that this road was also as equally traveled by people as the first one. Here the poet conveys that though we may do our best to make a right decision, but sometimes we may be fooled by what we see or perceive. Now moving to the next stanza, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no stuff had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on the way, I doubted if I should ever come back. In this stanza, he is again in the first line comparing the two roads and says that both that morning equally lay, mean both the roads seems to be same. In leaves no stub had trodden black. Trodden black means walked and black. Trodden means walked and black means footprint that, that mark that made by the footprint. So he says he saw or he felt that both the road was same and both the road were covered with the fallen leaves, and he found that no footprint, no mark of the footprint were there. Then he assumed that that morning nobody had traveled that on any one of the roads. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Here again, human tendency. We want to avail more and more opportunity. We don't want to leave anything that come on a way. So he said, oh, this word conveys some sort of regret. I kept the first for another day. He thought that another day he will come to that point and travel, but at the same time he says, yet knowing how way leads on to way. So he knows. Sometimes we make ourselves fool, even knowing the result, the knowing the consequences, still we convince ourselves that is not going to happen in the future. So yet knowing how way leads on to way, that means one road, if you started moving one road, you will see here you will find one more road. If you choose this road, then you will find one more road, then maybe this road and this road and this road. So it keeps on going. It keeps on going. It is not possible for you to come to the initial point. So he knows it. But still he say, I kept the first for another day, knowing that he won't be able. I doubted if I should ever come back. He is doubtful that it is not possible for him to come back to that point again once he started moving on his way. So it is impossible for him to come, but still he says that he kept the first for another day. So what is the summary of this stanza? The poet states that morning both the roads seems to be equally tempting. He found that both the roads had fallen leaf on them, and as he could not find any footprint on them, he assumed that no one had travelled any of two roads that morning. The poet regrets here that he could not travel both the roads at a time, so he thought that he would travel the first road sometime in future. However, he knows that traveling one road will open many other roads to walk, and he would never be able to come back to that point, the fork, to walk the first road. Moving to the last stanza, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So in this stanza, we will see the theme of the poem is to make the wise decision in our life. But according to me, the more emphasis is laid on to contemplate our decision taken in the past, to reassess our decision that we took in the past, to imagine that what our life would have been if we would have taken the other options. So I shall be telling this with a sigh associated with regret or satisfaction. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Sigh means sometimes we take a long breath. So maybe because of our regret or because of we are satisfied with something. So it is left up to the reader what meaning the reader wants to take. So I shall be telling this with a sigh. What he would be telling? Somewhere ages and ages hence means many years after this present time. Means when he would have lived the most part of his life, then he would look back at this point in time, and with a sigh, he will be telling that time two roads diverged in a wood. Two roads diverged. He will be remembering that situation when he found the two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and he chose to walk on the road which he found initially that was less traveled by. Though later on he found that it was equally traveled by, but initially this was the main basis of his taking that road, that it seemed to be less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. So later on in our lives, we generally contemplate, we re-evaluate that had we taken other options, if we had chosen other option, then our life would have been completely different. So here we cannot say whether the poet is happy with his this present life or he is regretting. So here, as I said, this sigh, this word has two connotation. One is to regret, one is to be satisfied. So maybe the poet is happy, satisfied with his life. He's only thinking that okay, if I had taken the first road, so my life would have been something else. It would have been not the same as he was living that life. Or maybe he was regretting, he's not happy with his life, and he's just imagining that if he had taken the first road, then maybe his life would have been a happier one, more satisfied one. So, this is all about the explanation of the poem. We will continue with discussing the theme, the title, and the poetic devices used in the poem in the next video. Thank you.